This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate Marriage Cast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to episode 3. We are Ryan and Michelle, and it's so great to be with you here today. We are continuing with our Red Flags in Marriage series. We did a episode last week about the danger of drift and what that looks like with just not being intentional every day in your marriage, and how that drift is such a slippery slope, and how it really over time can lead to really large gaps that are really, I don't want to say irreconcilable, but really hard to get back to. Right. So being aware of that every single day in your marriage. And today we're talking, Ryan, about the second red flag, and we're going to talk about a topic of settling. And I think that term paints a really vivid picture if you just think of just like a house settling, or just even just the word settle, to be complacent. People fall into this trap of settling for an average marriage. They think that this is the way it is. This is just what I have to settle with. This is how it's always been. And the way it's always going to be is just kind of the lot that I was dealt, and I'm going to have to live with it. But we want you to understand that you have a choice, that you don't have to settle. And marriage is something that needs to be continually worked on, but you don't have to settle for an average marriage. You don't have to settle for status quo. And the scripture we picked out for you guys for today was 2 Corinthians 5. It says, "This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone. A new life has begun." And I think what's so beautiful about that is that every day you have a new chance to build your marriage, to become anew. That maybe you grew up witnessing an unhealthy marriage, but that doesn't have to be the case for your marriage.
Right.
Like, you're created anew, and we have a new chance to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a choice. I really firmly believe that's a choice that we have every day to just sit, be complacent, settle for an average marriage, check out, put it on cruise control, if you will, and just let it go.
Yeah.
But that's what we want to talk about today. And honestly, this is a topic that really fires me up. I get really excited about this topic because I see it so often.
You actually came to me and you're like, "Michelle, is this okay? I don't want to hammer too hard." And I was like, "Well, you know what? But we want this podcast to be real. We want it to be authentic." And we both agreed that, you know what, this message, we talked about it, we prayed on it, and this message is going to be, we're going to go forward with it. So yeah,
absolutely.
It's going to be good.
Absolutely. So I kind of want to preface this. I read a book several years ago that just had a really lasting impact on me. The book is Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. And it absolutely just, I don't know, did something to me. It was really impactful. And there's really 3 core beliefs that he has. Now, that book is primarily geared more towards men. And so part of this is principles from that book that are maybe geared towards men, but I think they're really universal.
Yeah, I think so too. And there is a counterpart to that. It's called Captivating. It's by his wife, Stacey Eldredge, and he co-authored it with her. And I'll talk a little about that in a little bit here too. But I think you're right, Ryan. These apply to everyone.
Yeah. So part of and again, I'm not picking on you guys, but one of the things that Michelle, you said to me a while ago, and I don't remember when, but it was something along the lines of really the way that I come home will dictate the rest of our evening.
Yeah.
And so that's part of why I think that's true in a lot of situations. And so that's part of why I get fired up about this. It's part of the reason why I want to talk about this, and I'm going to talk to the men listening. And like I said, it is universal, but it might seem like I'm gearing this towards men, but it's just something that is really true in our household. And so I really want to just kind of dive through. There's really 3 topics that John Eldredge talks about, and it's really these three core like beliefs of the masculine heart. And we're just going to take each one and kind of dive in and kind of apply that to this topic of settling. The first one that he references is every man in his heart wants a battle to fight.
Mm. That's interesting. You think of little boys on the playground, and I remember one year in preschool. I'm just going to jump in and prove this point that's so spot on. One year in preschool, Thomas dressed up as Iron Man, and I went in to help with the classroom party, and they had a class. It's primarily boys in their class. There were like 20 boys and like 2 girls. And I think all of them, except for one boy, they were all dressed up in superhero costumes. Right. I think the other one was maybe like Mario or, like a video game character, but they were all these warriors.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's who God made us to be. And so part of the as we tie this into settling, I think this battle to fight, men in particular, don't stop fighting. Don't stop fighting for the things that matter, for your marriage, for your wife, for your family. We spend so much time fighting about things that don't matter.
Sure.
It's almost like there's been this replacing of, I'm going to fight over this topic that really is irrelevant. Like, start fighting for your family.
Yeah.
Start lifting up your spouse, with your words, with your actions, with the things you do when you're in public. This is a topic that we've talked a lot about, and it's something that drives me absolutely bonkers is when I hear people degrading their wives.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think women do that too.
Sure.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of, we're in some different sports leagues, and even, if I were to do something with my friends now, I think we've referenced this before too. Like, I don't hear a ton of it because I feel like people know that I won't tolerate that, and I'll shut it down. But to be in some different groups and circles, and to hear like the things that women are saying about their spouses, whether it's going for an appetizer after work or whatever, it's like, it's so heartbreaking to hear some of the things that they're saying, and it's so negative. And I think one of the things that we've done in our marriage is try really hard, and not even just try, we just don't talk ill of one another. If I have something I need to discuss with you, I'm going to go to you and talk about it. But I think for 2 reasons that does damage to your marriage. First, really it's gossip and it's tearing your spouse down. But I think when you verbalize that, and when you say and you talk ill of your spouse with your friends, like, what are they going to do? Are they really going to stand up for your husband? Or are they going to take your side? They're going to take your side. And that's going to fuel the fire. You're going to get more like riled up. And it's actually, I don't think it's going to do any good unless there's like, maybe it's like an accountability type friendship where your friend is iron sharpen iron, and they're going to push back and say, look, Michelle, actually, like, did you think about it this way? Maybe Ryan didn't mean it like this when he said that. Maybe he just was saying whatever. And then I'd say like, oh my gosh, like, you're right. But in this context I'm giving, I think talking to your girlfriends and, kind of venting or whatever is so unhealthy, because it also plants that seed in your heart, and it leads to like a callousness and like a bitterness, where it just grows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that happens often. I see it with men as well, maybe differently, but
sure.
The thing that drives me, and this is a topic again that we've talked about this a lot, is when I hear guys talk about like, oh, my old lady, or the ball and chain, and like those words, it just drives me bonkers.
Yeah.
I just,
like, what lady actually dreams and aspires when they get married to someday be a ball and chain?
Right. Right.
None.
Right.
0, right?
Yeah.
Or, I think we heard this recently. We had some acquaintances that I think it was the wife was out of town, and we're like, oh, when does so-and-so get back? And they were like, oh, sooner than I'd like, and I'm like, man, just saying those things, like maybe they were joking, but I think there was probably some weird truth in that too. And it was like cringeworthy for me,
Yeah.
So that's a good point, right?
Yeah. So again, don't stop fighting. It is we're in a battle. I mean, obviously, I think as we see this, marriages are under attack, and I think that's inside of us. I think men and women, like, don't stop fighting.
Yeah.
It's such a core part of who we are. It's just a matter of picking the right fight, if you will.
Yeah.
So the second, we'll kind of jump in here. The second kind of core belief that he talks about is an adventure to live. And I think the question is, when's the last time you looked at your marriage as an adventure?
Yeah.
As something to exciting, something that is this wild quest, this wild adventure. It's so easy to check out. It's so easy you get home at the end of the day, and I get it, right? You're tired, you worked all day, to sit in front of the TV and have that be your life.
Sure.
We've all heard the statistics on TV watching. The thing that I want to, and again, I'm not picking on anybody, because the example I'm going to give, I love football. I absolutely love football. But if that is your weekend, if Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all you do is sit in front of the TV and watch football, you're watching your life go by. You're a spectator of your own life.
Say that again. That's good.
And
a spectator of your own life.
Yeah, and it's just it's so easy, and again, I'm not saying that football is bad. I'm not picking on that. It's just it happens so often.
Sure, or maybe when that's the norm, when that's every day. I mean, it's fun to sit and watch a movie or a show or something, but is that more often than not?
Right.
Yeah. I think, I was talking about the companion book to that, Captivating. It was really geared towards women. And the theme of it really is, and I'll read this first, it says, every woman longs to be romanced, to play an irreplaceable role in a heroic adventure, and to have a beauty all her own to unveil. And I think that part about playing an irreplaceable role in a heroic adventure really coordinates and complements what you said well. And I feel like in our relationship, when we do things out and about, you come alive. If we go hiking, or if we're on some kind of a quest or adventure, whatever it is, and that your adventure could be, exploring a new city, just pick a direction. We've done that before. Hey, where do you want to go? North, south, east, west, and away we go. But what can light a fire in your spouse, and then I feel like I come alive when we're on that, because I feel like you're so excited by, these adventures, and your adventure can be whatever your personalities are like and whatever your interests and hobbies are, but being a companion in that adventure. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's great. So the last kind of core belief that he talks about is, for the masculine side, and Michelle, I think you just said it, for the feminine side, is a beauty to rescue. I'm going to say a few things here on this topic in particular, because it's something that is, again, that I'm very passionate about. And it's some things that I think maybe a lot of men don't want to hear, but I think needs to be said. And so, the key on this that I'm going to just say is don't stop pursuing your wife. And I mean that in any and every way possible. Don't stop dating her. Don't stop connecting. Don't stop being intimate. And we talked about that last week. There's different levels of intimacy. I'm not talking just physical, but I think to speak to that, I think that's become a major problem in our society. It's a major problem with men right now, is that I think we've settled for a cheap imitation of intimacy. We've settled, and again, I'm not speaking to every man here. I'm just speaking generally of, I think a lot of men have settled for this cheap imitation, whether it being pornography, whether it being the affair. Because it's easier. Right? They stop pursuing their wife. They stop putting in work. And they settle for this imitation that God never designed.
Perceivably easier.
Perceivably easier, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's something that I think a lot of men have done.
Yeah.
And it really is heartbreaking to me that's the case.
Yeah, I think, Ryan, when we were talking about this in preparation for it, we talked about kind of reflecting back on our marriage. And I remember when we were dating, I had brought up the topic of, like, what do you think, like the Bible says about this and that? We were talking. I think I kind of freaked you out because I started asking these questions. You're like, oh my gosh, where are you going with this? But we talked about pornography, and I just had shared, like, gosh, that really is like harmful, when we were just dating at the time. And I remember the next day I'd come over to have dinner with you guys, and I remember you had it was almost like a fireproof moment with the movie. I don't know if the listeners have seen it, but basically, I don't know, was the husband's name Caleb? I don't know why it's coming to me, but the husband in the movie was so convicted of this. He threw his computer back in the day when there was a big laptop computer, desktop computer. He threw it out in the lawn. But it was kind of that moment where you had your laptop, you got rid of it, you changed your password, and you just were so convicted of not realizing before, wow, that really is taking away from my future relationship with Michelle. And really, like what you said, Ryan, a cheap imitation.
Right.
It's a cheap imitation. And it also rewires your brain too. So there's so much to it.
Right.
But yeah, and then as we were talking about that, the thing that I think is really important for women to understand is that if your husband then is honoring you in that way, we also need to meet their needs. We need to connect. And you had said something last night, Ryan, that I thought was so impactful. You said that, ladies, if we are rejecting our man, we are essentially forcing them into some kind of a choice of sin.
Right.
And I would say that, you do have a choice. It's not like I'm making you do anything, but we're really not leaving them with healthy options.
Right. Right.
I guess I should be careful because it's not, I think the man that is making that choice, but we need to help support them in providing, how do I want to word it? Healthy boundaries and
Right.
a healthy relationship context so that they can continue in that purity. Is that a good way to word it?
Yeah,
Do you
I
want to
think so.
expand on that?
Yeah. I think, and it was a pastor. I think it's Craig Rochelle, a Life Church in Oklahoma, that said that of just really the only other option is sin when it comes to physical intimacy. And again, I know that there's different situations, and we're not diving into those specific things, but just as a general topic, I think unfortunately, I think that's a lot of what happens is I think for men as they pursue their wives, and it's rejection, that then they give up. And, going back to our story, some of that was just a choice. And it was in that moment, for one, I saw how much it hurt you. And two, to make a choice that I'd rather pursue you than this invitation. And so that was kind of that moment of really understanding the pain that caused you. And also to make that choice of I'm not going to settle.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to pursue you as long as I can,
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to not, men, and I'm speaking to you, is to not give up.
Yeah.
Because it's such an important part. It's an important part of marriage. It's an important part of what God designed, and that connection is very holy and very spiritual time. And to not give up on that.
Yeah, it's good. I was trying to think about how that conversation even came up back then, but I think it was probably along the lines of like my own insecurities of body image, and like I went through a season where it was really rough. And I think I had been sharing that, and I think I'd made a correlation to like, it's so tough, like what our world puts out there, because I literally feel like I can't compete.
Yeah.
And that was how we got in that conversation. And you were like, oh my gosh, like I don't want you feeling like it's like you're having to compare yourself to the world, like you're
Right.
amazing how you are. And I think that was how it came up, like in this discussion. And that was one piece of it where I was like, I just like, so like unrealistic, like, but being content, and I'm just content, but being proud of who God created me to be and being grateful
Yeah, absolutely.
for the body and the skin that I live in.
Yeah.
And not wishing that I was made differently. Like God knew exactly what he was doing. So the fact that I can own that, and like you see and honor that beauty, goes back to the whole thing with the captivating, like that you can be captivated by it.
Yeah.
Means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think a lot of, Michelle, women have that insecurity?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why they make, like leggings with like extra compression and,
Sure.
I mean, here, I'm just thinking like all the things, all the services that like the typical woman gets done, like the waxing, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, the nails, the hair, like it's a,
Right.
quadrillion-dollar industry, like all the
Right.
things, the tanning, the lotions, the big thing in my circles right now are like frownies. You wear these things. They're not a paid sponsor. I shouldn't even have said their name. They should be. Like you slap these like things on your forehead when you sleep so you don't get frowns on your forehead, and you have like all these stickers on your face and like these serums, like for sure. And like, and I will say like some of that's just for me. Like I want to feel good about myself, but I think society definitely feeds into that. You see it on Instagram, you see it on social media. You want to be enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, we have to base our identity in who God says we are, not who the world says we are. But there's a lot of competing voices out there for what we should look like.
Right.
Yeah. Good question.
And I say that also to kind of set this up of men, like recognize that.
Yeah.
And in regards to, not just settling in of like recognizing, like if your wife is trying really hard to do these things, to recognize that and say, "Ooh, you look really good." Like, give her a compliment.
Yeah.
Every woman wants to know that she feels beautiful.
Yeah. And
so don't just settle in and just like, "Oh, I told you you're good looking once. I don't need to tell you again." I mean, just have that always be at the forefront of try to compliment your spouse. Try to do that every single day.
Yeah.
If you can, to give that compliment, that extra little, just nudge that I think is super important.
Yeah, it's not going to come back void.
No,
it's just
for
like
sure.
putting a deposit into your marriage love tank,
Yeah,
it's a win-win.
absolutely. Yeah.
You'll make their day too.
Absolutely. So just a quick recap here. Again, just going to go through these real quickly. Just remember, a battle to fight. Don't stop fighting. Don't stop fighting for your marriage. An adventure to live. Life is an adventure. It can be. Don't be a spectator. Get on it. Get on the quest. Get on the journey. Start living. And then lastly, a beauty to rescue. Right? In marriage, you have a beauty. Treat her like that daily. don't give up. Don't settle for something that's cheaper. God designed something very beautiful. Don't settle for something cheaper.
So good. So good. We'll be back for 5 Minute Friday. And we thank you so much for joining us today on the Celebrate Marriage Cast. Thank you for joining us in part 2 of our Red Flags series. If you missed the first one, check out last week's. And if you would like further help or resources on marriage and family, visit us online at celebrate.church/marriage. Also, if this has been helpful to you so far, would you consider leaving us a review? I guess if it's good, a 5-star review. If not, I don't know, email the church. But,
right.
Those are so important, Ryan, right? For the algorithms and just getting seen. So if you've enjoyed the first few so far and this has been helpful, please consider leaving a review. It takes just a second. It would be so much help to us. So thank you and have a great week.